basically one article and one person even said that they were just basically pushing out lies.
It's just been edited to make it sound as if
it's really bad.
Normal.
Yeah. People that are breaking the rules of lockdown in the Philippines should be shot, is what one of the government officials said. Good afternoon, Selamat Petang to Malaysians. Basically, we're just doing a quick video here because there have been a lot of comments online, videos online about a recent video that Al Jazeera did, and it was called "Locked Up in Lockdown Malaysia," and basically it's surrounding a video where Malaysia apparently rounded up loads of migrants in a curve to control coronavirus, and these were illegal migrants. Basically, there's been loads of videos, reaction videos and whatnot on this topic, and some people who aren't even in Malaysia, having been in Malaysia during lockdown, I thought it's probably worth us having a look and seeing what we think about the documentary and giving our personal experience. Obviously, we don't know, we can't comment on the topic, in detail, but we can give you our personal experience, and maybe whether some of these things were true, or or maybe some of these things, whether we can disprove some of these things, basically. Al Jazeera, let me just say, are a news organisation that aren't without a history of questionable media. It's been criticised in the past for manipulating coverage to basically support the political interests of Qatar. It was one-sided in the conflict in Syria, which Qatar funded. It was anti-India, it had an anti-India narrative. And many of its staff basically resigned over the years due to its biased coverage. Basically, one article and one person even said that they were just basically pushing out lies. So, as an organisation, as a news organisation, you kind of have to question. So whether this documentary is telling the full picture, or whether it is completely biased, whether there is some kind of political bias here. Well, I just want to say one thing. We try to avoid watching anyone else's reactions or anything like that to kind of give us a kind of bias or picture. This is us watching it fresh. We wouldn't normally do a video like this, but because we love Malaysia so much and there's been such an uproar about it, we thought we've got to find out what's going on and give this a whirl. The narrative they're telling it in is so dramatic. It's like they're trying to tell it in like a dystopian kind of world, like taken out of your homes and fingerprinted, and they're fenced off. They're fenced off because it's in lockdown, because there's been cases. So they've locked the area down, and now they are going through each resident to check for coronavirus and to obviously check their residency and check their documents and make sure they've got it all in line.
Yeah, but everything was done, I think, to actually control the coronavirus spread, right?
Well, the journalists aren't allowed in because it's because there's coronavirus in there. If they let the journalists in, the journalists wander around Kuala Lumpur, they're just going to spread it out of there. The whole reason is in lockdown for a reason.
Kepada sama ada mereka ini bersih daripada.
That's completely fair enough. He said
the whole controlling thing was about coronavirus in the first place. It was about everyone's security, like everyone's safeness. They're not just
rounding them up, and I have not seen articles about that. I mean, if you look online, Malaysia doesn't have that. I mean, Kuala Lumpur was voted the second friendliest city in the world. Let me just say, and with their defence minister saying we'll not focus on their documents, but rather on whether they're COVID-19 positive. I mean, the way Malaysia treated all foreigners here on even the short-term passes, we were all given up until the I think the 15th of September.
Yeah.
It was extended. So they've just extended everything. They've looked after us in that sense.
Yeah. So it's not about documents.
And the whole kind of coronavirus situation lockdown was really strange for everyone across the globe. I mean, Malaysia wasn't too bad. It was really good. But let me tell you, like places like, let me tell you what they were doing in the Philippines. In the Philippines, they basically said that if you break the rules for lockdown, people that are breaking the rules of lockdown in the Philippines should be shot, is what one of the government officials said. They said shoot people who are breaking the lockdown rules. So they're saying a very, very different message. You're just like, it's worlds apart, you know. No offense to Philippines at all.
19 ataupun positif dan sebagainya.
That doesn't mean they don't have the right to check for coronavirus.
No, they need to check for coronavirus. It was the worst Southeast Asian country at one point. You know, so Malaysia did get a bit militant in that sense. They did have roadblocks in the street. People remained friendly to us.
That's the kind of stuff they had to do to control it. The kind of stuff they should have done as well. For checking people.
No, I mean look at how Malaysia is doing now. Like it is improved so much, and it did take measures like this. This was in May, so you know it was a bad and difficult month. April and May were very difficult for Malaysia.
Yeah, and look how other countries are when they didn't take these measures.
Look at the UK, you know, where I'm from, absolute shocker. I remember that childcare lockdown area.
Yeah, we've been there just before it finished, I believe.
And we saw it actually reopening as well. I don't think it didn't look anything too dystopian. It's not a common thing in Malaysia, and the vibe was never, you know, especially to it's such a multicultural nation. It's fantastic in that sense. You know, you go to the UK and it's so different. There is a you know, distrust and annoyance with foreigners. You know, the UK is full of it. You know. Yeah.
Otherwise, if it wasn't like that, this would have happened earlier. Like they said, this man has been working in Malaysia for like 20 years. What does that mean? No one's ever been hunting for him in 20 years.
Give the trust again for the government because they will afraid.
It's not a racism thing, is it?
No, it's not really about race. It's just about being there illegally. But
it's such a tough situation.
But yeah, but this tells you again, the main concern was just like people's safety and you know, just stop the spread.
I think Al Jazeera is really trying to make it sound like a really bad situation. And the Malaysian government really like tyrannical dictatorship.
It's really sad.
So there you go, he's a local who basically said it's not about racism and it's not about discrimination, that some parties are trying to make it or say that it's racism, but it's not. There is none, that's what he said. The countries that didn't check everyone, look at them now, look where, you know, Malaysia is in. Man, they're really trying to slate Malaysia, aren't they? They're really trying to say, oh, there's restrictions, like there's travel restrictions in place.
There's travel restrictions in place everywhere.
They put it on just this like, and acting as if like the Malaysian government hadn't done anything. Why are they trying to slate the country so much? Like he's done a fantastic job with dealing with coronavirus. We feel so safe, like walking around. You know, masks off. You know, you didn't feel at risk of COVID anymore. I mean, I love it. Some of these reports are from Australia. You know, how has Australia dealt with it? You know, I mean, Melbourne's gone back into lockdown. They're basically saying that Malaysia is exploiting the virus to basically create this racism and these kind of migrant atrocities of basically rounding people up and just deporting them and kicking them out. You know.
Yeah, and I think this is not being reported like this because this is what happens to migrants in Malaysia. This is what's happened because they didn't really stress that enough. It's just been edited to make it sound as if this is
really
like
bad,
normal conditions these people live in, but this is not normal conditions though. This has happened for a reason, and obviously it's quite sad. Yeah, but again, I think what hasn't been stressed enough is that these all happened during a situation of the pandemic, not just randomly, because that's what happens normally.
You know, don't let this documentary, you know, give you that idea about Malaysia, because Malaysia is not like that. It is not this xenophobic nation that is painted in this documentary. It is different to that. It's a very, very funny.
Yeah, I think anyone who's been to Malaysia can confirm that, because you see how people...
Everyone wants to help you in Malaysia. People stop you, you know, to help, to, you know, ask you, you know, give you advice, you know. Even in some of our videos, you'll see how friendly people are.
Yeah, so much culture, but how can you talk about racism in a country like that?
I just want to take this opportunity to say that this locked up in Malaysia, Malaysia's lockdown by Al Jazeera, paints such a dystopian feel and such a horrible xenophobic nation that it's not true. We've had the best time in Malaysia, haven't we? We're very, very grateful, and it was we have been in Malaysia since February. So that time up until now, it's been absolutely amazing. There has been, we've been no victims of any crimes, anything like that. It's just been amazing. No reason, that's not what we felt. So yeah, positivity, spread love, spread positivity, Malaysia. Thank you.